The first thing a young 16-year-old Maximus learned in flight school was that before each and every flight, you had to do something called a safety walk-around, where the pilot physically walks around his or her aircraft to visually and physically inspect the aircraft for any potential dangers or defects that could endanger your flight. Well, the same procedure is conducted by the flight crews on large commercial airlines as well, just in case the maintenance or ground crew may have missed something important the last time they touched the aircraft. So one would assume that the safest airline in the history of the universe would surely understand this procedure, right? Well, you know that old saying about what happens when you assume. You make an ass out of you and me. I'll explain next on Maximus. Greetings everybody, Maximus here. I hope you're all doing well, wherever you may be, all around this great big world of ours. Well, the Australian Transportation Safety Bureau is reporting that a Boeing 787-9 passenger plane on a freight flight flew from Melbourne, Australia to Los Angeles with tape blocking its static engine ports. All 4 ports on both GEnx engine cowlings had been taped over, as well as other ports on the fuselage, by an engineer as part of the Dreamliner's parking procedure during a scheduled 39-hour layover in Melbourne. However, a second engineer whose job it was to restore the 787 to flight-ready status on the 21st of September in 2021 was, quote, unaware that the fan cowl ports had been covered, so he didn't check for it. It was only after the Qantas 787-9, registration BHZNJ, landed in Los Angeles on the morning of 22 September 2021 that a Qantas engineer found the tape covering the 4 static ports on the aircraft's engine fan cowls. But Maximus, you might ask, what exactly are engine static ports and what do they do? Fan cowl static ports provide air pressure data to the engine's electronic control if the normal air data reference systems become unreliable. There are 14 static ports located on the 787's fuselage, engines, and tail fin. Boeing's procedure for covering the cowl ports includes fitting a 1-meter-long streamer, which in this case was taped down to avoid being torn off by strong winds. So the procedure by Boeing says to attach a 1-meter-long streamer so that the tape can be visible. But Boeing also recommends that engineers tape down the streamers so they won't get blown away in the wind. Well, doesn't that just sound like a real Boeing kind of thing? But hey, Maximus, didn't you say in the teaser that the flight crew always does a pre-flight safety inspection walk-around? Well, yes, I did, thank you. So then why didn't the pilot doing the walk-around catch this error? Well, that's another outstanding question by you. In fact, it was the second officer on the flight that was tasked with the responsibility. When interviewed by the ATSB, the flight crew's second officer who conducted an exterior inspection before the flight reported that they were aware of the fan cowl ports, but not that they would be covered by tape. Because after all, he said that would just be crazy talk. Okay, he didn't say that last part, but you wouldn't be surprised if he did, right? The second officer also reported that they were somewhat distracted during the inspection, as they found a pitot tube cover on the ground and were trying to hand it off to an engineering staff member at the time. Correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't the pitot tube covers supposed to be on the pitot tubes and not on the ground? What genius is running this operation for Qantas? Oh, I see what you did there. The second officer also believed Qantas Engineering had conducted a pre-flight inspection prior to the flight crew arriving at the aircraft. The ATSB found that while the job instruction card, the JIC, developed by Qantas for parking the 787, did link to Boeing's recommended procedures, the JIC for restoring it back to service did not. Well, isn't that swell? In their report, the ATSB said this was a missed opportunity to assist engineers to readily access the current procedures and determine which ports were covered, and also allowed for different interpretations of which ports could be covered. They said when performing safety-critical tasks like aircraft maintenance, it is very important that procedures are clear and unambiguous to avoid misinterpretation and errors such as occurred in this incident. Following the occurrence, Qantas distributed memos to engineering and flight and ramp crews, highlighting the location of the fan cowl static ports and that they may be covered. Additionally, the airline amended its park and restore engineering instructions to both reference Boeing's procedures. The investigation report also noted the meter-long warning tail connected to the tape covering the static ports was also taped down to prevent it from flying away in strong winds as per Boeing's recommended procedures. This likely reduced the visibility of it covering the fan cowl static port covers, the ATSB said. And finally, the ATSB stated that targeted inspection of locations and components, rather than relying on streamers which can detach, can help to identify when these covers or devices have not been removed. Well, as they say, all's well that ends well. Yeah, I had a little fun with this story, but this very well could have had a tragic ending, especially if this Dreamliner was flying passengers as it normally does and not freight. But seriously, it just goes to show you that in the world of aviation there is no detail too small when it comes to safety. And also, although it may be monotonous at times, the pre-flight walk around is a vital part of a pilot's job. Well, that's what I think. How about you? Let me know down below. Well, that's going to wrap it up for now. And as always, if you'd like to help support the channel, the links are always in the description. Please consider subscribing if you think I've earned it. And as always, please be sure to leave a like, share, and ring the bell. And remember, leave the rubber on the runway and your troubles on the ground. And I will see you next time in the air. Yeah, this is Maximus.